Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody, aloha, to the first in a series of 7 presentations we're calling the 7 Senses, and we are the Hawai'i Pacific Deaf-Blind Consortium. For those of you that have friends that weren't able to join us today, this will be recorded, and we will be sharing that link with you afterwards. But first of all, I would really like to introduce our staff. And then we'll get the presentation going. I am Melanie Lee, and I'm the Director and Educational Specialist for the Hawai'i Pacific Deaf-Blind Consortium. Jen?
I'm Jennifer Tarnay, and I am the Project Coordinator for the Hawai'i Pacific Deaf-Blind Consortium. And we have Roz on with us today.
Hi, I'm Roz Kia. I'm the Resource Specialist for the Hawai'i Pacific Deaf-Blind Project and the Project Coordinator for the Comprehensive Service Center. And we have Ginger.
Hi, I'm Ginger Knowles. I am the Family Support Specialist.
Great, thank you. And before we begin with Jennifer, I would like to just let everybody know that the purpose of our these 7 Senses seminar is to really understand the importance of the 7 senses and how they relate to the children that we're serving that are deaf-blind, to understand how children process and respond to their environment. And another feature is making hands-on sensory activities. So we are offering activity boxes for people on our census. And if you have not signed up for them, there is an activity that goes with each of our presentations that we will send you in the mail to do with your family or in your classes. And there will be directions and a video that follows. So please subscribe to that. And I think Jen or Roz or Ginger, do you have anything to add?
Nope, I don't.
Okay.
You're going to hear me talk a whole bunch today, so
Okay.
I got nothing yet.
And I would also like to thank before our wonderful interpreters and our captioner that are with us today and will be with us throughout the whole 7 series that we're presenting. So if you have any questions today, please feel free to write them in the chat or just to raise your hand or just shout out, and we would like to address them. So without further ado, Jen, I'm going to hand it over to you, and thank you everybody for being with us today.
Great. So like Melanie said, my name is Jennifer Tarnay, and I am the Project Coordinator for the Hawai'i Pacific Deaf-Blind Project. I am a middle-aged Native Hawaiian Caucasian woman with long dark hair. I have on a black shirt and an army green sweater today with some coil wood earrings, and I am joining you today from my home office. So behind me is a white wall with a couple of pictures that are hanging on the wall. And I'm going to take a minute here to share my screen. So hopefully you all can see. Before I begin, I would like to make the disclaimer that in joining you from my home office, you may hear my dog. I have a very large, loud Catahoula leopard dog, and he gets a little protective. So if you hear him screaming in the background, I do apologize. If I go quiet for a minute, that's why. And then we'll just wait until he's done and move right on. So today we're going to kick off our 7 Senses series by talking about the senses and about sensory processing. We're going to do a brief introduction to all of our senses and sensory processing and sensory processing disorder. So hopefully today, the key takeaways that I hope we all achieve in leaving me after this presentation is an understanding of the sensory systems, what they are, what they do, where they're located, an understanding of what happens when that processing doesn't work typically or the way that it should, and also to understand what we can do as educators, as family members, as support systems for those children and young adults who have sensory processing difficulties. So how many senses do we have? Kind of give it away a little bit when we say it's a 7 senses series, right? In truth, there are 8. There are 8 senses that we're going to talk about today. As children, we often learn about 5 senses. There's a lot of storybooks out there and videos and songs that talk about our 5 senses. And those are the external senses. Those are the ones that we all know: sight, taste, touch, sound, and smell. The additional 3 senses that aren't as well known or talked about socially are our internal senses. And those are our vestibular sense, which is responsible for balance and movement. There's our proprioception, which is our muscles and our joints. And then the 8th one, my AirPod just died. The 8th one is interoception. I can't see anybody. Can somebody give me a notice that you can still hear me okay while I change these out? Or better yet, if you can't hear me, let me know.
You're fine.
Beautiful.
I'm sorry, did you want to keep the auto captions on or live?
I personally don't have a preference.
It should be live captions coming through, not auto.
If I keep talking, will we know if it's live or auto? I don't even have my captions turned on.
Yeah, I'm not writing.
Oh.
Shall I keep going or do we want to fix that?
Hi, Sammy. Are you typing now?
No, huh? Well, I don't think I can do anything from my end.
Okay, I don't have auto captions on. So I believe we're using just you for the captioning.
Okay. Okay, so I didn't see any captions then, so let's see. Okay, that's me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so interoception is where I was at. So that's what goes on inside of our bodies, inside of us. So all experiences, all knowledge, all understanding of the world, of our world, are gained from the information, right, that we gather through those senses, right? We know that walls are solid because we can see them, because we can touch them and feel them, because we can bump into them and know that that's a hard, solid surface. We recognize taste, what's sweet and what's bitter, what's salty, because we put those in our mouth and our tongue talks to our brain. We know if we are in danger, if there's a really loud, unfamiliar sound, we know when we're in danger. And we're able to do things like safely cross the road or get in and out of a car because we can see if there's traffic nearby. We can see how to grab where the door handle is to grab the door to get in and out, right? And we can also hear if there are sounds nearby, if there's traffic zooming by. Our brains are continually taking in sensory information and making sense of what it is that's going on all around us. And when our sensory processing is working the way it should, this whole process is super complex. And it's what allows us to function typically, or what is deemed as typical in the world around us. So now we're going to take a look at the individual senses, just a real brief peek. So the first sense we're going to talk about real quick is vision, right? Our eyes allow us to interpret what we see. That message happens, we see it, it goes to our brain, and we can interpret what we're seeing. We are able to distinguish colors or shades of colors, shapes, letters, words, It helps us to guide our own movements or the movements of things if we're moving things through space. Our vision helps balance and allow us to continually monitor our actions and the actions of the objects around us, right? Vision is important for both verbal and nonverbal communication. Our second sense is hearing, or the auditory sense. It allows us to listen for different sounds if people are talking, so we can understand speech. It helps us determine the direction that sounds are coming from and know which way to turn our bodies or turn to find those sounds. And that AirPod just died. Microphone and a different speaker. We're having a rough day, tech day over here. All right, am I still, people still hear me?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay. So our auditory sense, if it's processing appropriately or typically, it helps us to filter out some sounds and help us just to focus on which sounds are important, right? The third sense is touch. It allows us to feel the whole world around us. It provides us information about the shape, about the size and the texture of objects. It helps us to understand our surroundings and give us boundaries in space. It works alongside our other senses for the development of self-awareness, right? Touch also plays a part in helping us feel safe and helping us bond with other people, create connections with other people. The nerve endings that we have in our skin, and our skin is the largest organ in our body, right? So the nerve endings in our skin allow us to interpret all kinds of touch. So from a bear hug to having something brushed lightly past you. Very, very important. We're gonna clump our fourth and fifth sense together because they work very, very closely together. So our sense of taste, or our gustatory sense, and our sense of smell, our olfactory system. Our sense of taste provides us with information, obviously, about how food tastes. Is it salty or sweet? It also lets us know, is this food or is this not? That comes from our taste and kind of our touch in our mouth. And our sense of smell is a system that provides us with information about those different tastes, right? I'm sure everyone's been sick at some point, had a cold, and not been able to taste their food, right? So smells aren't just about food. They can be about all the things around us. Our nose gathers information, and that information goes to our brain, and the smell can affect our thoughts. It can affect our emotions. It can affect our behavior. Our sense of smell also can alert us to things that are dangerous, like gasoline or bleach, right? Lets us know if we're okay. If there's a smell of smoke, we know that we're in danger. The sixth sense is proprioception. And proprioception is our body awareness and positioning. It's what enables us to touch our nose, right? And know that my arm is moving and I can move it here and it's gonna accurately go the place that I want it to go, to my nose. Our ability to drive a car, for those of us that can drive, that is based on proprioception. We can watch the road with our eyes and know exactly what our arms and legs are doing, right? So even, and that happens at an unconscious level. When you go to touch your nose, or when you see the road turn and your arms turn, and we've been doing it long enough, it's an unconscious thing. We don't have to think about Okay, I'm gonna touch my nose, so I have to reach my arm out in front of me first, and then I need to bend at the elbow to get to my nose. It just happens on an unconscious level. Our seventh sense is the vestibular system, and that's balance and movement. The vestibular system informs all of our basic survival skills. That's what lets us know, am I upside down? Am I right side up? How fast is my body moving in space? How high am I up from the ground? What direction am I going? Is it the right direction or the wrong direction? And this gives us not only balance, but coordination. And then finally, the eighth sense that is often left out, the interoception, right? This is how we interpret signals from inside of our body. Examples of that is feeling hungry or thirsty, or like our little pictures there, needing to use the bathroom, right? It even goes so far as not feeling well. I don't feel well, I'm sick, I have a headache. All of that happens inside of our bodies. Those are our 8 senses. I know we said we have 7 senses in our series. Just sounds better that way. So now that we know what our senses are and what they do, our brain is able to process them typically. Let's kind of talk about what happens when our brains process them differently. And that can be called, and you might have heard it, sensory processing disorders or sensory integration disorders, right? We know our brains are continually taking in sensory information to make sense of the world and everything that's going on around us. So when our sensory processing isn't working, and that process is disrupted, it can create what is viewed as an inappropriate or atypical response. And those responses can be what we call hyposensitive. So too sensitive, you're understimulated, and you're undersensitive. That's when we have kiddos that are out there seeking input. They're wanting to spin in circles, or they're wanting to squeeze things. They're seeking sensory input. So that can happen when things aren't, the sensory process isn't processing typically. Or it can be hypersensitive, so overstimulated. Too much is going on, right? Too much light, too much noise, too many smells, and that we end up seeing kiddos that are sensory avoiders, right? They don't want to eat whatever that texture is or whatever that smell is. Maybe they don't like curry, it's too strong. Or they cover their eyes when the lights are bright, or cover their ears when there's a sound. Right? Those are our sensory avoiders. And because I dislike being a talking head, I have a video to share from a child's perspective about what sensory processing disorders are. And I'm sorry, I don't know if this is captioned, but I do know that it's not signed. I want to make sure. I'm going to be able to hear it on my end. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute to make sure. Nope, I didn't have this sound on either. Here we go. I was going to play you a video with no sound. But here it is.
Hi, my name is Neil. I like classical music. I like to read comics. I also like to go to school. Something that I know a lot about and one. Hi, my name is Neil. I like classical music. I like to read comics. I also like to go to school. Something that I know a lot about and want to tell you about is sensory processing disorder. SPD is when the messages that your brain gets from your senses are not organized, so you don't respond to things like most people do. This makes it hard to do everyday life stuff like getting ready for the day, going to school, eating, and playing. You can have SPD by itself, or you can have it with other things like autism. I have autism and SPD. Everyone has 7 sensory systems. They are sound, taste, smell, vision, touch, proprioceptive, and vestibular. Under-responsive versus over-responsive. You can think of each your sensory systems as being a cup, and water is that type of a sensory input. If you are under-responsive to a certain sensory input, it is like you're a big, huge cup. You keep getting water to the big cup. You can just keep adding, but it never feels full. But if you are over-responsive, it is like you are a tiny cup. All you need is just a little sensory input and you overflow. You want your cup to be full and not spill over. Each of your sensory systems is their own cup and they are different sizes. Just because you have one big cup does not mean you are under-responsive with all your senses. I have a big cup for my proprioceptive and vestibular senses and a little cup for my touch, sound, taste, and smell senses. Everyone is different and unique. Some days and times of days are good, and some are too much for me. I don't like loud and busy places. I cover my ears and want to run away or yell and tell everyone to be quiet. I need less noise to feel in control of my body. I like to always be moving. I have a hard time holding still. I don't like people to touch my skin sometimes. But everyone is different. My brother doesn't mind if people touch him, and he does not need to wear sunglasses. It is important to know your own body and to understand your body and your 7 senses. Sound. We get the sense of sound through our ears. When the sound is loud, I can't concentrate of anything except stopping the loud noises. I have a really hard time when my mom's turn on the vacuum or blender. Classical music makes me feel relaxed. I like jazz too. It's nearly the same thing. Taste and smell. When we eat or put things in our mouth, we use our chemical senses, taste and smell. Every time you eat, you use these senses. Vision. Our eyes are how we use our sense of vision. Some people like bright lights and lots of things to look at. I get distracted if there's too much to look at. I like things soft colors and organized. When I walk outside, the sun is always so bright that it hurts my eyes and I can't look up. I wear my sunglasses when I'm outside to help. Touch. Some people don't like to be touched, and I don't like my hands to be messy. It makes me feel bad. Touch is your tactile sense, and if you are not used to having things touching your skin, it can make you feel uncomfortable sometimes. Certain clothes, tags, and shoes can really feel not right for an opinion. For most people, their brain gets used to that uncomfortable clothes. But for me, I just can't think of anything else but the tag that is bothering me. I will tug on it and want to take it off the whole time I'm wearing it. We are trying to teach my hands that it is okay for them to be messy for a little while. The more I can play with things that are a little messy, the more I get used to it, and my brain learns not to focus on it as much. Proprioceptive. You can think of proprioception as your body awareness. You get proprioceptive input every time you get input through your muscles and joints. It sends a message to your brain that says, this is where I am and this is what I'm doing. You get proprioceptive input to help you do everything your body wants to do. Like pushing yourself on a scooter board, carrying something heavy, or even getting dressed. By doing more with your body, you can get more proprioceptive input. This helps me feel better. When I feel like my body is out of control, I like to jump, scooter board, or getting wrapped up tight in a blanket. Proprioceptive input helps me to calm down and organize my body. Vestibular. Your vestibular sense is super complicated but super cool. We all have something in our inner ear that tells the brain whether we are balanced and whether we are moving. It tells our brain whether I am right side up, upside down, moving forward, or moving backward. It is what tells us that we are dizzy and better stop spinning. If our brain is under-responsive to vestibular input, then our body wants to constantly move and spin, and we never get dizzy. If your brain is too responsive to vestibular input, then you feel off balance. It makes it scary to do activities where you have to tilt your head back or your feet are not flat on the ground. Our vestibular sense is very important to help us do everything we need to throughout the day. To figure out what your needs are, it helps to go and work with an occupational therapist. I have two of those, one here and one at school. I go to OT 1 time a week. Katie and me and my mom gets to do fun things together when we go. When I leave, my body feels better. It feels like I am in control. We work out our muscles and our brains. Katie and my mom like to talk about things for us to try at home and school. If you have a hard time with your sensory input, there are a lot of things you can do to make it better. There are activities to help your brain learn how to respond differently to sensory input. You can help your body feel calm and in control by getting the sensory input you need throughout the day. Your parents, teachers, and occupational therapists can help. To learn more about sensory processing, check out these websites.
Okay. I love that video. I think it's a beautiful little summary of everything we just covered and gives us a glimpse into what we're going to jump into next, which is we know what typical sensory processing is. We now kind of know what it is when it's atypical, but what do we do about it? Right? Yes, working with occupational therapists are ideal. They can absolutely help you. Not just occupational therapists, there are teachers, special education teachers, parent specialists and speech language pathologists that all know about these kind of activities we're going to talk about. And it's important to know that, like in this video, he talked about I don't know if he said how many times a week, but typically OT is 1 or 2 times a week, sometimes 3. But it's important to know that 1 or 2 or 3 times a week isn't enough for our kids and individuals with sensory processing struggles. Those activities need to be incorporated throughout the day and throughout activities. So first thing we're going to look at, I don't like slides that are a bunch of words, but for the purpose of what we're talking about, I thought this was very important. Let me take this off. Was to have all the words on a page, because I'm hoping that you will come back. I need somebody to tell me what your screen looks like, because my screen just went completely jumbled. Are you guys seeing things, white screen, black text, or are you seeing what looks like somebody got in a fight with knitting yarn.
This is Roz. It did look like that knitting yarn for a second, but now it's back to a white screen with text.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for touch, when individuals struggle with touch, processing touch in their tactile sense, a wide variety of textures might be overwhelming, right? It might be that light touch might not feel good. We have hyposensitive and hypersensitive on the side here. So some other examples, a decreased awareness of being touched or bumping into things. You know, these are kids that you see real rough and tumble kind of play, right? They're running, they're slamming into each other, they're slamming into walls and chairs and tables. You also might see kids that pull away, any little bitty touch. They don't want to be cuddled, they don't want to be touched. Any kind of touch really stresses them out. And they avoid touch, they avoid changing their clothes, they avoid toileting because that feel of their clothes on and off their skin, on and off their body might feel yucky. And they often will avoid messy play. You'll see them very clean, very tidy. Maybe they don't like walking through sand or water. So on the left side is all of our lookalikes. On the right side are the strategies that we can use when we're helping those individuals. For those that have that under sensitivity, those hypersensitivity, we can do things like massage, weighted blankets, weighted vests. A nice easy one is a weighted backpack, taking a backpack and putting some books inside, and they can wear that backpack around, and it gives them just enough weight to help them feel better. Snuggling in a blanket or in a bean bag, and then some structured but messy play. So we're kind of teaching them how to feel better about messy play. For hypersensitive individuals to touch, hypersensitive to touch, gloves can be used to help with that. Warning people, warning children, warning individuals ahead of time that this activity is going to be a little messy. You might not like it, but it helps them to be prepared for what's coming. And also letting them know how long that activity is going to last, right? So they can know that it's going to be over in 5 minutes or 2 minutes. Setting a clock helps them with that, a visual timer. And then always introducing things slowly and allowing those individuals to set the pace for what you're doing with touch. We have taste. Taste can get really complex because, especially with children, we have picky eaters, right? Some kids truly are just kind of picky. They don't necessarily like all the foods they pick and choose. And then you have kids that it's a true sensory struggle for them. You know, they're hyposensitive or hypersensitive to the way things taste. And what that looks like with hyposensitivity, it looks like constantly putting things, whether they're food objects or not, in their mouth, chewing on pens, chewing on their hair, clothing. I've seen a lot of clothing chewers. At mealtime, maybe just shoving all the food in their mouth, right? Liking extreme flavors. We tend to think that children shouldn't like incredibly spicy or incredibly salty foods, but those hyposensitive to taste children will be craving that and looking for it. They might also lick things, food objects or not. I have had kiddos lick tables and lick walls. And then sometimes we see that excessive drooling or salivating. We see that in little kids where it's typical development, but we might see it beyond that point of typical. For the hypersensitive to taste, there's gagging, a lot of gagging when you wouldn't expect it. I've had kiddos that I've worked with that gag at the thought of a food. I've had kids that gag at the sight of a food across the room, that is just too much for them. And I've had some that are afraid of those foods, and it's a real physical response. They're afraid, they cry. Some just have difficulty with the textures, they spit them out, they avoid them. And this can even extend to brushing of teeth as well, right? So what do we do with that? Some activities, mouth fidgets, or what's called jewelry. I'm not sure if you guys have heard that term before. They make jewelry, necklaces, rings, bracelets that are for chewing. Oral motor games, so blowing bubbles and whistles and even chewing gum if it's allowable and the kids can safely chew gum without swallowing it. That can be helpful before, not necessarily during an activity, but before an activity, getting to do those things. Encouraging crunchy foods, pretzel, celery, ice cubes are another good one, but careful because I have had children chip teeth with ice cubes. Or even if we have that jewelry, and sometimes it doesn't even need to be jewelry, it can be something that a rubber band or a scrunchie that is okay and safe for them to mouth on. If they're chewing something that's inappropriate, redirecting them to what they have that's theirs, that is a safe, allowable object for chewing. For hypersensitivity, oral stimulation, really, we're going to try and desensitize them, right? Let them know what's coming, and we're going to have structured time for exploring things with our mouth. Food play activities to get them exposed to those foods and getting more comfortable with them. Things that we know that are calming, maybe they like music, or they like a particular smell, like a lotion, having those present at meal times to help calm them down, to feel safe. And then massages before and during meal times can help as well. And as always, we want to avoid doing too much all at once, right? So maybe with foods, we can separate, we can give them one food at a time, those types of things. Checking my time. All right. Smell, sensitivity to smell. Sometimes we have our hyposensitives, they seek certain smells. They're out looking for them. They're searching for them. They want mom's perfume. They want mom's lotions, you know, they want to smell the cherry Jolly Rancher. And sometimes with these kids, they fail to identify unsafe smells, right? I will admit, I love the smell of a clean kitchen. So Pine Sol, love it. You know, lemon Lysol, love it. I love it. Is it safe to go smelling those things? No, not so much. So sometimes we have kids that love those smells so much, they can't actually identify that it's unsafe for them. For hypersensitivity to smell, that again, we see gagging or actually can be sick and throw up when they encounter certain smells. They can get distracted by smells. Sometimes it's too much and they can't focus on whatever activity they're doing. And we see kids struggling through meal times when they're hypersensitive to smell, because food that might not have a very strong scent to people with a typical sense of smell, it's overwhelming, it's too much. They can smell it and it's off-putting. And what do? We can provide safe and appropriate methods for stimulating to make sure that our kids are safe no matter what. Lotions, scented candles, perfumes. We have to be careful with this because we always also need to be aware of the other people around us as well. So in a classroom setting, if you're working with a child and you want to use lotions or essential oils, make sure we check in with the teachers, the other students' families, to make sure we're not causing problems for other people by solving our own struggles. But providing activities that have scents, you can make scented Play-Doh, spices, cooking spices are another way to incorporate scent. And then scratch and sniff stickers. I'm pretty sure they still make those. When I was a kid, I had a whole picture or sticker book full of them, loved them. Those are always an easy one. For a hypersensitive, we can limit exposure to the smells as much as possible. I have worked with kids where we have used nose plugs because that's just what they needed. In the time of masks, in the time of COVID where we are wearing masks, one thing that we've been doing with kids is taking those masks and putting very lightly spraying it with an essential oil inside that they like, a scent that they like, so that it can block out the other stuff and they can just focus on a smell that's good for them. Again, if you know that you have a kiddo that gags when they're around certain smells, avoid wearing perfumes, strong perfumes or lotions. And then try and introduce smells in fun ways, right? Scratch and stick stickers, again, Play-Dohs, cooking, those kinds of things. So our sense of sight, vision, hyposensitivity to that. We've all seen kiddos that stare at spinning objects. windmills or spinning lights, right? Our under-sensitive kids or understimulated kids will just focus on that. Will also spin their own bodies, and that can be because of the way they feel in physical space, but sometimes it's to gain the visual feedback, right? When you're spinning and you're just looking dead ahead, everything around you is spinning. So instead of spinning an object, you make the world around you spin. Hypersensitive kiddos, they'll look away. I can't look at your face. There's too much going on in your face with your eyes and your nose and your mouth and things moving and makeup and lipstick or mustache. It's too much. So I have to look away from you in order to be able to focus on what you're saying and hearing you. We see kids that lose their place when reading and writing, perhaps because there's too many letters on a page, right? It's overwhelming for them, for their eyes. Struggle with eye contact. They might tilt their head a certain way when they're looking at things or concentrating. And we see those kids bump into things often, right? They misjudge their spatial awareness, the distance between themselves and other things. And so what do we do with these guys? For hyposensitivity, we increase the visual stimulation. We use a lot of hand gestures. I do this anyhow, comes naturally. Puppets, kiddos like puppets, and that's extra appealing, using lots of color and lots of movement. So we gain their attention and we can catch them, we can capture that visual field. For hypersensitivity, maybe we do the exact opposite, right? We minimize all the visual stimulation. Or in some cases, we might need to create a safe space. When they're feeling overstimulated, maybe there's a place in the room they can go to that is, in the corner where there's not a lot visually going on, where they can go and kind of calm themselves before they come back. Encouraging rest and relaxation. This is a hard one in the classroom, but allowing kids the time to close their eyes for a little bit. It's one of the easiest ways to get rid of that visual stimulation is close your eyes. Close your eyes, you can't see it anymore. Easy to calm down, right? Reducing clutter in a space, using natural lighting whenever possible also helps. And then clear boxes for activities so people can easily locate what's inside of a box. Almost done. Proprioception. Proprioception, we look at what that looks like when you see somebody having some difficulties with their proprioception. Pulling, twisting, chewing, biting objects, again, their own clothes. And that we see that with taste as well. So you kind of got to figure out which one we're working with. Sometimes it's both. It takes a little bit of observation on the part of the parents, the teacher, and the team to determine why are they pulling and twisting and chewing and biting? Is it because they need the proprioceptive input or do they need the taste input, right? So you'll see things that cross senses. Frequently breaking toys, being very heavy-handed, not realizing how strong they are, that rough and tumble kind of wrestling play, maybe touching everything around them when they walk down the hall or walk through the house, right? And this is also where we see self-injurious behaviors, seeking that sensory input. So I've definitely had kids that hit themselves, and that's typically always proprioception. They need that input. So how do we give it to them? We give them access to things that's going to get their body moving. Swings, scooter boards. We saw that in the video. Exercise balls, fidget toys, even providing like regular sips of cold water can help with proprioception. Chewing on that jewelry that we talked about, or the weighted equipment we talked about, vests, backpacks. That also works for proprioception. Oh, there's my little girl. The vestibular system with all the movement. This is our hyposensitive kids. We see they're the ones that are jumping from those high places. They're climbing really high. They're making us worry. They're freaking us out. They have no sense of danger. They jump from the highest point they can possibly find. They spin and spin and spin and never get dizzy. They swing as high as they can and don't ever worry about falling down, right? Every opportunity, they're upside down or running and fidgeting. Our hypersensitive vestibular kids, they're real cautious. They're hesitant to take any kind of risk. right? They avoid movements. They keep kind of to themselves and quiet in a smaller space. They might be fearful of heights, and even something that's not that high off the ground, a couple inches, that might be too much for them. We see them preferring to lay down instead of sitting upright. Or maybe they're leaning on their head or their arm when they're in class, right? Balancing activities, walking on a line, even if it's flat on the ground, might be difficult for them. For our hyposensitive kids, we give them those regular movement breaks, allow them to get up, give them that sensory diet consisting of physical movement opportunities throughout the day. Provide alternative seating options, right? The wiggle boards, like what she's standing on, right? That balance board, sitting on a therapy ball, sometimes even just sitting on a cushion or a rolled up sweatshirt or something to give them just a little bit of movement. For hypersensitivity, we want to limit the exact opposite. Limit any unnecessary movements. Make sure the chairs are solid on the ground. Make sure our feet are flat on the floor when we're seated in class. And any kind of movement that we're going to introduce, do it slowly and allow it to be self-directed by the child, right? And finally, what difficulties in interoception look like, we can see overeating. We can see like not feeling full at all, just eating and eating and eating. Not feeling hungry, right? Kids that just don't ever feel hungry and don't feel a need to eat. Not being aware that they don't feel well. Children that might have a fever and they just have no awareness that their body is fighting something and doesn't feel well. Not having an awareness of body temperatures. Bundled up, sweating, the body's having a physical response, but I don't feel hot. I'm not bothered by it, right? And not being aware of needing to use a toilet. So maybe those are the kiddos who pass the point of being potty trained or past the point of when we think they should be able to be potty trained. They're still having accidents because they don't realize that they need to use a bathroom. And what we do for those kids is we set timers with toileting times, set timers for meal times to help with routine and to build in that predictability. And it teaches them body awareness. We can teach about emotions to help them understand what different emotions and body functions feel like in their own body. And finally, to wrap up, we're going to talk just all these things we're talking about are sensory integration activities. We're going to integrate activities that help feed those sensory systems throughout the child's day, right? They can be used to help those who struggle. They can be used to help those who don't struggle. I mean, even our kids that don't have sensory difficulties can benefit from this, is what we're finding. They are effective in supporting individuals to improve their levels of attention and focus, to prepare them for learning, to prepare them for participation in activities, can help them to tackle all those imbalances and support them with the energy they need to be able to respond appropriately and positively in the different environments, demanding environments that children have. So there are alerting activities to provide vestibular stimulation, right? Prepare the brain for all the learning that's going to be coming. So examples of that: skipping, jumping, jumping jacks, running in place, high knees. Those are alerting activities. Get your body moving and ready to go. There's organizing activities. Those are going to prepare the body and brain as well. It does provide provides children the opportunities to increase their focus prior to entering into whatever activity we're going to have them focus on: math, English. Some examples of those would be climbing, balancing, throwing into a target. We're using multiple senses to achieve these things, right? Scooting on those scooter boards. And then the final group are calming activities. So this is where we want to calm a child. We're going to go through alerting and then organizing and then calming activities. And this is important to ensure that we're calm and we're centered right before we step into that learning activity, right? So maybe push-ups, maybe squishing a ball in that deep pressure, right? And that helps calm us down right before. And these sensory integration activities, if we do this in these order, right? An alerting activity, an organizing activity, and a calming activity, it's going to help best prepare our children to be successful. And as we get into the other senses through the rest of our series, through the rest of the year, we can break this down individually into activities for each sense. that is what I have for you today. Here are my resources, in case anyone was interested. And before I run out of time, does anybody have any questions? If you do have questions and you don't want to ask them here, that is absolutely okay. You can put them in the chat box. I'm fairly certain that everyone on here should have an email address that they got this information for the presentation through. Feel free to email us and we can answer your questions. We can set up a telephone call or just communicate back and forth through email if you have any questions or concerns. And we will be making these slides available. So all those things I went through really quickly on what the hypersensitivity and hyper and hyposensitivity looks like with what you can do, you'll have access to that in the slides when we send this out. And that, my friends, is all I have for you today. So thank you very much for joining us on the last hour of your day before you can be done with work. I know we have a couple people that aren't even from Hawaii. So thank you from the far reaches of the Pacific and the far reaches of the United States for joining us tonight. Hope you guys are all safe and well. And we'll see you next month for our next sensory workshop. I don't know the date. Somebody who knows better than me will let you know. Yes, Becky. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll hang out here if you guys want to stick around. Let me stop sharing my screen. Mel and Roz and Ginger, if you guys have anything you want to contribute to our goodbyes or anything else. If not, thank you all and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. This is Melanie speaking, and we really appreciate your participation. If you do have a child that has dual sensory impairments, that means vision and hearing, please notify us because those are the people that we are sending kits to because of the way that we're funded. I also wanted to add that we will be sending you an evaluation of today because it's really important for our funders or the federal government. So please, it won't just take a few minutes to fill out, but it's really important so we can keep doing these series and continue onward. Thank you very, very much.